Unified Command, and usually it is a semi-permanent arrangement. The Special Forces Operating Base is a command post type arrangement formed and operated by the Special Forces groups from organic and attached resources. It is the focal point for operational, administrative, logistical, and communication support functions. To extend the span of control of the SFOB when distances involved preclude effective command or support of deployed operational elements, a forward operating base may be deployed. The organization and function of the FOB will vary with the mission, duration, and scope of operations, and security, communication, administrative, and logistical support requirements. For example, it may operate as an intermediate command and control base, a forward launch recovery site, or a radio relay site. The unconventional warfare operating area is where the Special Operations Forces perform their mission. Now, let me put them all together in 7 of the most common relationships for Special Operations Forces. The most common relationship for the Special Forces Operating Base is to direct all operations in the UWOA. It provides command, control, administrative, and logistical support for all its detachments in the UWOA, as well as those awaiting deployment at the SFOB. In this situation, the SOC exercises command and control over Special Forces detachments in the UWOA. This may be for sensitive missions where positive control and maximum security measures are required. Those detachments awaiting deployment remain under the command and control of the SFOB. Deployed detachments may communicate directly with the SFOB for administrative and logistical support. Theater UW missions may require the establishment of an FOB as a separate control headquarters reporting to a command other than the main SFOB. In this situation, the FOB provides direct command, control, administrative, and logistical support for all of its detachments. The FOB coordinates with the SFOB for operational, administrative, and logistical support as required. An FOB may be established as an intermediate control headquarters to extend the span of control, support, or communications of the SFOB. The Special Forces Group has the organic assets to establish 2 forward operating bases. In this situation, the FOB may be employed using a subordinate FOB to further extend its span of control, support, or communication. In this situation, a core area of intelligence interest encompasses the UWOA, although UW operations are beyond the core areas of influence. U.S. UW forces are intended primarily to support the theater or unified command, and the majority of intelligence information gathered by UW forces is of interest to and for use by these commands. The sensitive nature of UW operations requires adherence to principles of compartmentation and strict security. Intelligence flow would follow existing lines of command and control, with appropriate information being passed to the Corps commander by the theater or unified commander. However, an SF liaison party may be provided by the SFOB to support the Corps headquarters at this time. The SF liaison party stays abreast of activities within the UWOA and informs the Corps commander and staff. It makes continuing reports on matters within the scope of its mission, keeps appropriate records, and advises the Corps commander of reports sent back to the SFOB. In particular, it ensures the timely flow of intelligence from the UWOA through the SFOB to the liaison party at Corps headquarters. Communications and operational security are essential to the survivability of UW forces in the UWOA, and therefore only critical essential elements of information, or EEI requirements, should be selected for collection by Special Forces elements. The SFOB retains command and control and provides administrative and logistical support to the operational detachments in the UWOA. During this situation, a core area of influence closes on the UWOA, and operations of either conventional ground forces or UW forces impact directly on the other. This may dictate passage of operational control of appropriate UW forces to the conventional commander. Close coordination and a rapid, timely flow of intelligence information must be maintained between UW and conventional forces. At this time, a Special Forces Liaison Party is normally provided by the SFOB to the Corps headquarters. The Liaison Party can provide the conventional commander with intelligence of interest, assistance in link-up planning and passage of operational control of UW forces, and advice on Special Forces employment during and after link-up. The mission, the size, the composition of resistance forces, the enemy situation, and the political situation are some of the factors influencing the selection of special operations forces which may deploy into an unconventional warfare operating area. The same factors influence command and control. The terms war and warfare have acquired different meanings over the years. Today, there is little probability that a formal declaration of war by one nation upon another will occur, except in conflict situations at the higher end of the conflict spectrum, or as a last desperate measure to ensure the survival of a nation. The conflict spectrum ranges from high probability, low risk situations, such as terrorism and unconventional warfare, to low probability, high risk situations, including nuclear war. How does such a spectrum apply to special operations forces? The National Command Authority needs forces which have a capacity to work and win in the twilight and fuzzy gray areas between general peace and general war. Special operations forces specifically possess that capability. We define a low-intensity conflict as the limited use of force for political purposes by nations or organizations in order to coerce, control, or defend a population or territory or certain rights. It includes military operations by or against irregular forces, peacekeeping operations, terrorism, counterterrorism, and rescues, and military assistance under conditions of armed conflict. This level of conflict does not include protracted engagement of opposing regular forces. We define a mid-intensity conflict as a limited use of force for political purposes by nations or organizations in order to gain permanent or temporary control of territory through the use of regular armed forces. This form of conflict does not include the use of nuclear weapons. Mid-intensity conflict may include some or all of the techniques and characteristics of low-intensity conflict. We define high-intensity conflict as the unlimited use of force by one or more nations to gain or protect territory. This form of conflict includes the use of nuclear weapons and may include some or all of the techniques and characteristics of low and mid-intensity conflict. At the lower end of the conflict spectrum, special operations forces can perform several missions, the two most significant being unconventional warfare and foreign internal defense. Pre-crisis operations allow United States decision-makers to become involved in foreign areas of national interest while their range of policy options is still wide open. These operations enable the United States to assist countries in maintaining and improving their own security before a situation has deteriorated to the extent that conventional forces are required. Thus, the potential for intensified, higher risk, higher visibility conflict is decreased. Special operations forces give the National Command Authority needed flexibility in responding to threats at levels below conventional war and in a form and fashion appropriate to the challenge. Military operations conducted by these special operations forces utilize highly trained, equipped, and organized DoD resources against strategic or tactical targets in pursuit of national, military, political, economic, or psychological objectives. They may support conventional military operations or they may be committed independently when the use of conventional forces is either inappropriate or unfeasible. Sensitive peacetime operations are normally authorized and conducted under the direction of the NCA or the designated commander. Special operations may include unconventional warfare, counter-terrorist operations, collective security, psychological operations, and civil affairs measures. Special Operations Forces Unified Commands are committed to specific areas of the world. The European area is designated as SOC-EUR. The Atlantic area is designated as SOC-LANT. The Pacific area is SOC-PAC, and the Latin American area is designated as SOC-South. All other Special Operations Forces are commanded by SOC-CENT. For foreign internal defense.
These soldiers are in the first phase of military training in their home countries by one of the Special Forces groups. They're being introduced into new equipment and training techniques that will allow them to eventually maintain the peace and security, foreign internal defense, of their own country.
For unconventional warfare.
These soldiers are undergoing training in unconventional warfare using U.S. furnished equipment. Training consists of weapons proficiency, communications, medical, and operational techniques.
Well, our leader here right now, our advisor, Tops, as he's known, is great to me, and he's going to guide us, as I will guide my men in the future. And I want to say praise to them and to the American government, and especially the members of the Fort Bragg in North Carolina for the training I received from them. Thanks.
For strategic or tactical reconnaissance. For strike. For strategic and tactical psychological operations.
Cualquier cubano todavía en el país.
For civil affairs operations. Including civil administration.
Well, we are hoping to not build it up there. We are hoping to rebuild it.
For rescue.
Go! 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 Come on, do it! Come on! Come on! Come on, a little faster! A little faster! Go! Come on! Come on! Get out there! Come on! Move it! Move it! Come on! Move it! Let's go! Let's go!
For evacuation. For humanitarian operations.
Kind of get them in a position or a line. We'll take the youngest first, and we'll work up to the oldest.
Okay. Okay, I want you to put this in your mouth and chew it up, okay? You do that for me? Now chew it up. Give it Mike.
For special aviation missions. For sabotage. for terrorism counteraction, Special Operation Forces are ready.
I am not an atomic playboy.